Hello, this program will be about polynomial operations as well as monomials. Um, in this program, we will be focusing on the bullets I have under the main print menu function. We will look at simplifying monomials, polynomial operations such as add, subtract, multiply, divide, evaluating polynomials with values and expressions, and solving or finding roots. So that's the main print menu, and those are the main concepts that we will be focusing on in this program. So I have a sort of a pseudocode or layout of this program. We're going to take choice 2 print menu. This is going to be for the user as they input one of the choices. This is the second choice, polynomial operations here. These will be all functions. So that we have 4 functions plus the main print menu function, and then 7 additional more functions. Actually, 3 more functions, since we already stated that add, subtract, multiply, divide will have their own functions. We will have 3 additional functions. That would be evaluating polynomials for values expressions. So there are 2 functions there, and functions for getting user input for an expression. That's just to get user input. And then we have the flow of our main program here. With that said, I have created a VS. I've already opened VS Code and created a new file. It's called Polynomial and Monomials, and I've made a comment that this is for program on polynomial and monomial operations. So with that said, let's go ahead and make all of our functions, and then I will go in detail in what they're doing. All right, so these are all the functions we're gonna need to use for our program before the main function, of course. So the first function here is the print menu, the main one. And this is just like the one I showed earlier in the Google Doc. It'll ask the user to choose one of these options for them to pick, and once they pick it, it'll call the other functions to do the computations. So that's the first main print menu function. The second function is the print menu choice 2 for the polynomial operations here. So I made that one is going to have its own print menu. So this should be I and IV. So what that does, it'll ask the user, once they choose number 2, it'll give them another print menu to choose from, either addition, subtraction, multiply, or divide. And then once they choose that, it'll do the operation that they chose. And then we have poly product. This will take two expressions as input or parameter, and then we have this variable prod equals expand. This is from SIMPy. It'll expand expression 1 and expression 2, so it'll kind of multiply it or FOIL it, if you will, and then it'll nicely print the product. That's what that pprint does. It'll do a nice print version of it. Then we have simplify monomials. This will take only one parameter expression, and then mono simplified is a variable. It'll simplify the expression. That's a SIMPy command or function that we're using, and of course pprint the variable that we simplified. And then we have poly add subtract. So add takes two expressions, and then it'll add them and print the result to the user. Subtract does the subtraction of the two expressions. It'll take 1 minus 2, and then it'll print out nicely that the first one minus the second one is this result, which is called subtract. And then we have poly div. This is a division. It'll take two expressions as parameters, and we have two variables, quotient and remainder. So we use the div command from SIMPy, and we take the two expressions, and this 0 means the first of those solutions, and the 1 is the second one. So it'll give us two solutions. The first one is going to be the quotient, second is remainder, and we print those to the user. We have subbing values here. The first one is subbing a value, of course, so x is going to be a symbol, and x1 will be something that the user will input that they want to be evaluated in the expression. Once they enter an expression, then the function will ask them to enter a value to substitute, and that's what that subs does. What that does is that it substitutes into the expression, and it'll calculate it and spit out to the user what the result is. This is substituting an expression. The difference here is this A1. This A1 is just if x is not a value, it's another expression. We take that other expression and evaluate it into the main expression and see what we get for the result. Sometimes we multiply it, sometimes we divide, and so on. All right, so now that I've made all my functions, I will create the main function and go from there. All right, so this is our main function. We will give to the user the print menu, and this is how I create my print menus. I have a range. In this case, is 1 to 4. This 5 is n+1. So this is for exception handling. In case the choice is not one of the options, we loop through until we enter the right choice, and then we continue. Once the right choice has been chosen, we give them, for choice 1, if they choose that, we give them an expression to input, and then we try accept else, we simplify it and accept simplify error if it's invalid, and or else we simplify, we call the simplify monomial function to simplify that expression that they input, and then we set flag to false. And then if choice is 2, we took 2 expressions and we do the polynomial operations down here. If choices, we give them another print menu, choice 2, that's this print menu up here, print menu choice 2, we call this function, and then once that's called, that'll give them a choice to pick one of the options. So once they pick one of the options, either add, subtract, multiply, or divide, we call the functions that they choose to input. For example, if they choose add, then we call the expression add, the polynomial add, that'll take expression 1 and 2 and do the computation, and we set flag to false to exit out of this while loop and exit out of the program. For the other choices, it's the same setup, it's the same idea. We call each of the functions based on what choice has been made, or else we print invalid option, try again. So this is to make sure that the user doesn't input something out of these choices, I through IV. If they do that, then this else command takes care of it. So it's an exception and handling procedure there. If choice is 3, we take an expression and then we try accept simplify error, and or else we give them a print menu, either A, substitute a value, or B, an expression, and then that's what the choice will be given to the user to pick one of those options. So if choice is A, we have them input an expression, and then we call the sub value function that we created earlier. It'll substitute the value and print out a result to them. And if choice is B, we again take another expression, and we have this A1 that we talked about. We also have X as symbol X because the input is in terms of X that we will take. And then this poly sub expression function will do all the computations and print nicely to the user what the results are. And if choice is 4, this should be solved. We take an expression from user, and we call the solve command from simpy to solve this expression, and from the Python's dictionary we set that to true. If it's an invalid expression, we handle it by saying it's invalid, so the program keeps running, and we loop back until they choose the right option. Else, we nicely print the expression that was solved in the try command. So that's the flow of the program. Down here, I've given the choice to the user if they want to keep running the code or not. If they don't want it to run it, all they have to do is hit Y and the program breaks. And then we start the program, we call the main function. All right, so I've looked at my program and everything looks good. So let's go ahead and get the math book. This is my Algebra 2 math book that I study and use for creating these programs. So we'll pick one example 1 from this book. This is properties of exponents. It'll start with monomials here. So let's solve this ugly looking monomial, see if we can simplify it. Let's input that into our program. So we have 3x cubed y squared. Let's type that in, we can run it. So run the program. I will pick 1. So we have 3 times x cubed times y squared. And then that's times negative 4x squared y to the 4th. Times negative 4x squared y to the 4th. Oops. So it's a bit annoying inputting these symbols and operations in Python when we run the program. It's a bit tedious, but this is how Python takes how Python language is working. So let's enter that expression and see what we get. So we get negative 12x to the 5th, y to the 6th. Let me check the book, see. That's what they have also. They have the same answer as we did. So I'm not going to do all these problems. I know they all work. Let's do this one. This one is a bit easier. P cubed over p to the 8th. So let's run our program again. So we don't have to run it again. So let's hit a key to keep running our program. So pick 1. So I have p to the 8th like this over p to the 3rd power. And we get to p to the 5th power. And I'm going to keep running my program. So let's pick another problem from the book. A cubed to the 6th power. See if we get a to the 18. So a cubed, and this is all to the 6th power. And I need to copy and paste. I inputted the wrong thing in there. So I'm glad that the program catches it with the exception handling. So we get a to the 18 when we enter a cubed to the 6th power. keep running the program, see if we, let's see. I'm not gonna look at all these problems because they are a bit long and not easy to input into the program, but they all should work, and we should get an answer, a nice answer for them, in a like a pretty printing way. So proper operations of polynomials. Let's do one of these. Let's do the first one. See if we actually. Let's do example 2 from this book. 3x squared minus 2x plus 3. Let's input that in. So let me run it again and do this again. Polynomial operations. So 3x squared plus 2x plus 3. Let me check if that's the minus 2x plus 3. Minus 2x plus 3. That's the first expression. And then the second expression is x squared plus 4x minus 2. X squared plus 4x minus, so I need the symbol minus 2. Check that. 4x minus 2. See if we get the same thing. And of course, this is subtraction, so I. So it'll print out nicely. The answer is 2x squared minus 6x plus 5. And when we check, we get the same thing that the book got also. So I know addition works nicely. Let's do a multiplication one. This example here. See if we get the right answer. We have 2x times 7x squared minus 3x plus 5. So running the program, we're going to pick number 2. And then we have 2 times x as the first expression. The second expression is 7x squared minus 3x plus 5. So 7x squared minus 3x plus 5. And then we are doing polynomial multiplication. So we get 14x cubed minus 6x squared plus 10x. And that is what they got also. So this is another multiplication of polynomials. See if we can do a division. Let's do a division of polynomials. Let's do the first one, see what we get. 4x cubed times y squared plus 8xy squared. So keep running it. So we hit number 2. So 4x cubed, I believe it was y squared. Okay. Plus 8xy squared minus 12x squared y cubed. Plus 8xy squared. And it was minus 12x squared y cubed. Minus 12x squared y cubed. I mean, this is the first expression. It's a very long expression. And then the second one is a shorter one, thankfully. So the second one is 4xy. So 4xy. And we choose polynomial division. So that's IV. And we get x squared y minus 3xy squared plus 2y. So x squared y plus 2y minus 3xy squared. That's the same thing as they did. Let's check one more to check. Let's do number 4, I believe it is. Yes, solve for roots and well, let's do number 3 really quick. Enter an expression x squared minus 5x plus 6. And then substitute a value, hit A. And then we want to substitute, say, a value of 4. And it'll give us nicely that the function evaluated at x equals 4 is 2. So that's how we do that. And lastly, let's solve or find roots of polynomials, number 4. So let's solve the roots of the same function I inputted before, x squared. So let's copy that. I know that factors nicely into x minus 3x plus x minus 2, but let's see here. So x is 2 and x is 3. And lastly, let's just check our exception handling, see if that works. I hit number 6. That's not one of the options. A string is not one of the options. Hit number 2. If I enter that, it'll take it, but let's see if it does anything. It even does it, but then it doesn't make sense. I mean, the input that we entered that doesn't make sense for polynomial operations. So let's see, evaluating. If we hit 3, let's say x squared. Let's choose an option that's not one of the options. It'll keep looping back to the print menu for that choice, unless you enter an option. So -1 is not one of the options, but once you hit B, it'll ask us to what expression you want to substitute. So say x plus 1. So it'll x squared evaluated at x equals x plus 1 is x plus 1 squared. It'll substitute what we inputted into the main function expression that the user inputs. So I'm going to exit out of the program, and that's how we create a polynomial program using Python. Thanks for watching.